Hey, this is Steve in Dallas, Texas. It's Saturday morning, my friend, and you are listening to Light Talk.
Well, hello there. It's Stan in Gainesville, Florida, and today we're going to discuss magnet schools. Someone turn on the lights, coffee with the director, and safety first, all on Light Talk.
And this is David coming to you from the beautiful Belmont Shore neighborhood of Long Beach, California. And if you don't already know, you are listening to Light Talk, and we are the Lumen Brothers.
The original chipmunks.
That's right, the three of us, Stan, Steve, and me.
I wonder if anybody
David.
ever plays our show at like 2 times the speed or 2.5 times of what we sound like.
Well, we could do it 2 times as slow.
I think could you do the intro, David, and put a little chipmunk effect on us?
Yes, yeah, I could do.
Hey,
Okay.
this is Dave.
I think that'd be cute.
I could do the whole thing like that. I'll
I'll
just
be-
speed up the whole show.
You could be Alvin.
So maybe people don't have to put 2 times and they'll just hear our show. Instead of it being a 40-minute show, it's a
It
20-minute
would
show.
be a 20-minute show, right? I bet some people already do that.
Yes. Welcome, everyone, to episode 374. And does anybody have any news? Anything going on? Nothing's going on. Okay. Well, we have a special guest next week. We're going to leave it. It's a surprise. We're not going to tell you who it is. But it's someone in the video world. Right.
Video is a big thing. It's going to come up later, I think, in the show.
Okay. That
Today.
sounds good. All right. So let's get started. And guess what? I have our first question. And this is I got to ask for your patience because it's a little long. So here it is. It's from In the Dark from New Orleans. And In the Dark from New Orleans writes, "This past weekend, I was a guest at a wedding in New Orleans. It was a beautiful event with the reception in this beautiful facility that was lit gorgeously. Well, at least the walls were lit gorgeously. When the toast began, the speaker would step forward in front of the couple who were already sitting in a very dark area with a brightly lit wall behind them. Unfortunately, there was no front light on the people speaking or on the wedding couple. I was sitting 15 feet away and could not see a thing. Since there was a full video production crew there with multiple cameras, I was wondering how the cameras could actually pick up the speakers' faces. As I was sitting so close to them, I was able to look in the camera viewfinder and notice that these people were completely in the dark. You could only see the silhouettes of their bodies. Then I looked up and noticed that there were a dozen par 38s hanging from the ceiling beam, pointing in the direction of the speakers, but were not even turned on. I was wondering, shouldn't someone just turn on the front light? Question is, what do you do in a situation like that? Do you volunteer your services in the middle of the reception while people are speaking and suggest that they turn on the freaking front light? Signed, In the Dark, New Orleans.
I love this question. I love this
It's an awesome
question.
question. I wish I knew this person's name. But all I can tell you is that my big answer here, it depends. It depends on how close you are to the people who are getting married, right? Who you could talk to. All that, and because most of the time you don't want to rock the boat, even though you know that wedding video that they've probably spent $10,000 on is going to be trash. It's not going to come out. I don't think you get involved. Now, let me tell you what I do to friends, because this happens more often actually than a lot of people may think, where people just don't consider the lighting in a wedding. Now, I'm a little surprised in this case because there was a video crew there, and you would think that the video crew would have scoped the place out and said, okay, for this section of the festivities, we're going to need a little bit of front light because people are going to be giving speeches. We're going to want to see the wedding couple, right? We're going to want to maybe put a special on them or just a little bit of front. Turn on those par 38s to like 40%. That's all they would have needed. But they sort of made it worse because they had a very bright background. So if these are friends of mine, I would say, look, this is what I do for a living. I'm a lighting designer. I'll be happy to just look at what you've got there and make some suggestions before the event starts. Maybe it's just even renting a couple of LED poles, with some front light that you can get just about anywhere for like a ridiculous small amount of money, just to fill in some light. So that's what I would do. How about you guys?
All right. Well, I like the question because there's a lot of kind of stuff wrapped up in it. But I wanted to make a point about light in facilities like that, whether any kind of public gathering space, particularly when there needs to be a speaker. So like, even if you think about LTI, or if you think about the Javits Center in New York, or these big conference places where you have a room, think about like our first light talk thing at LTI. We're in this room, we're at one end of the room, all the light is coming from overhead, and there's no front light on the people who are speaking. Oftentimes at a lectern, it's the same kind of thing. It's not hard to do. So why doesn't it happen? And I have some speculations. I think that the average person is never really, quote, on stage. And your explanation about the wedding couple, they're on stage in a sense. They're performing. And most people don't like the innate reaction of having light focused into their face because it's sort of blinding. And then they can't see other people in the room. But actors, of course, accommodate to that. So I think architects and electrical engineers who design these rooms don't think about front light because they're thinking about, I need so many foot candles at 30 inches above the floor, and I'm going to crank that out in my software, and I've met the code. And they'll say, well, I don't know where the people are going to be. How do I move it and change it? And so there's a whole kind of thing about that. It's the same thing with sound. It's like, why do you keep playing the music while I'm trying to have a conversation and eat my dinner? There's sort of like a human factor that you're getting at, David. The people need to see people. They want to see their face. They want to see their eyes and expressions, but it just gets neglected. Now, whether or not you should intervene is another part of the question that I like. I have been in places where I literally, nobody's looking. Oh, I can reach it. I'll just get up and focus the darn thing because I can't resist, right? Or I'll say you're in a store or, a place where the lights are clearly out of focus and you make that little thing, oh, that's so much more beautiful. It just takes a quarter of an inch. I don't know, in the situation that you described, that's a tough call. I don't know. Hear what Steve has to say. To intervene or not intervene.
Well, I think we'd have to see what the video company does in post. Cameras today don't need much lighting at all. I was working on something and they had some lattice up against a drop, and I said, there's just no way to take care of this. I just can't light the drop with the lattice there. It's going to be really ugly. There'll be shadows everywhere. And the video guy said, don't worry about it. I'll pull the shadows out at post. And that's exactly what he did. I was looking, it was magic. It looked like crap live, and when we saw it on video, it was like, man, that's really well lit. No, it's not. Wow. It's a great camera and a great engineer on the other end of it.
Yeah, the problem with that is that we're not, shooting this as a film. When you're doing a wedding, there are like 200 guests out there who need to see the people's faces as well.
Well, that's a different thing. That is a different thing.
Well, it's a wedding.
So,
unless you're having a private wedding.
Show. That's what they came for. Right.
That's right. That's the show. You're right, Steve. The cameras are a lot more sensitive.
Yeah, they are.
With a lot of the editing software we have nowadays, you could probably just pull the background levels down and bring the front light levels up. But if there's no front light at all, you just wonder, why these people are throwing money away for their guests must have been very upset.
Was there easy access to controls for in this
Who
question?
knows? They said that there are some Par 38s up above. So I assume that if this is a facility that normally has events, those Par 38s are up there for a reason.
Right.
Especially if they're pointed at the stage. So I assume there's some sort of lighting control. Maybe it's just a wall switch. But again, it's the video company. I kind of throw the blame at the video company here because I'm not going to blame the people who don't know better. I'm going to blame the people that do know better, and that's the video company. And they could at least say, hey, this is going to look a lot better if we put a little bit of front light in. It doesn't take much, but at least for the rest of the guests,
I'm going to blame the facility. For not having someone there to help.
Yeah. It's crazy. And I want to make one more comment to Stan, because Stan, you had a great comment about people who are not used to being on stage because they're not performers. I have played in bands where we come to a venue and I see a bunch of lights in the front. They could be LEDs, whatever, pointing at the stage, and they're all pointed in wacky, crazy places. And I'll take a chair and I'll just point the light at the stage. And I have my fellow musicians saying, "Don't point that light in my face."
Right.
Right? That's in my eyes. And I, you know how I answer that? I said, "You're performing." I said, "Get used to lights being in your eyes because you're a performer." But yeah, that's a good point, Stan. People don't like lights in their eyes.
Right. And I think that they're prepping them and saying, recognize that you're getting married and you are, in a sense, performing. People want to see you. And maybe you sort of adapt them to, take them out. But I put that with new actors, right? To how to find you've all done that. How to find your light, how to teach a young actor how to use light rather than, because the initial instinct is to shield yourself from direct light, when exactly you need to be the opposite, like a moth to a flame. Some actors, they love that. They want to be in the light. So anyway, yeah.
It even affects some young opera singers who are not used to it. And I've seen incredible directors like both Paul and Ken will talk to that's actor-singer and say, "Okay, I know this light's in your eye, but let's talk about how you can use this light. What it's doing." And as soon as you talk to them on that level, they understand the theatricality involved.
Yep.
And it takes a great amount of skill to be able to do that with an actor or a young dancer or a young singer.
I had a conversation once with the late, great Tom Skelton, who everybody should know. That's a lighting designer. And he told the story about Katharine Hepburn and lighting her in a show. And he said she knew exactly where her key light was, and she could zoom in on it. And when she delivered a certain line, she could just turn her head and make her eye glisten at the right moment. And he was saying, she knew how to use my light like a master, right? Like nobody else could. Steve, not Steve Woods, but Steve in New Jersey asks, if you were renovating a new magnate high school for the performing arts, and the school wanted to be state-of-the-art, train their students, what types of things would you find to be very critical in a facility like that? Well, it's funny you should ask, because I'm doing that. And it is an interesting question. It's not like a budget consideration here. The people are really excited, and I'm starting to think what should be in a school like that technically. And the client is very excited about technology. Yes, you need lights and sound and rigging and seating and all that stuff. But what things do you guys think would be like, 21st century or 24 years now into the 21st century? It seems silly to say 21st century. We're quarter of the way through. But what kinds of things would you think, are important for the future, for the training of these young people who are being selected for a school like this?
Well, I think the first thing I would do is put in an automated fly system. And then you just have to look at the advantages of hydraulic versus electric. But I think I would do that. That would be I see that as the biggest kind of danger area and innovation area for a high school.
In my case, it's a historical building, 1926 construction. It's built pretty well, and it will be gutted on the inside. The theater actually is pretty bad shape, but it does have some historical architectural features. But it wants to be the heart of the building in the sense the theater would be. But it'll have studios, it'll have television broadcast, it'll have green screen spaces. It's going to have the best kinds of things. I was thinking that it might need a pretty, since we have a video artist coming next week, I think it needs a pretty heavy dose of pixel mapping and projection mapping. Cause do you think that like the industry is going to more digital, scenic lighting kinds of things and less wood and canvas and paint in terms of the future?
Yeah, I mean, that's what I was going to say, Stan. I was going to say, both you and Steve suggested automated flying rigging systems.
Right.
But I think that it is moving more to, projections, both front and rear projections. So there should be facilities for that and room for the screens like that. And there should also be studios. You mentioned green screen stuff like that,
studios,
but also video content and digital editing studios, so students can create their ideas and edit them, because it's all going that way right now. That's my point. What's state of the art? 2 years it may be totally different.
Right.
Maybe you need AI studios. Maybe you need those Apple Vision Pro goggles. Have a studio with that type of technology, because that's state of the art.
Yeah, I was going to propose the notion that you have a historical building and you want it to be very future oriented because you're educating students. And I thought, how do you sort of address both? And one thought that came to mind was the walls of the auditorium, the ceiling of the auditorium, the walls around the proscenium, and the stage itself. Because it's a blank slate, right? If you created scrim-like walls that looked historical, so you have a nod to honor the age of the building itself, and then behind it, you had LED walls or pixels where you could light them up, and you could basically be anywhere, and you could sort of make it a sort of an immersive environment when you wanted it to be, or a traditional environment when you wanted it to be. And then, of course, the training on how to use that for the students is kind of a foundational thing. And I'm thinking about proposing something like that.
Yeah, well, it's sort of like a mini sphere.
Well, that's correct.
Because you have those panels like the Sphere has, but
right.
You're just talking about them on the side walls, which I think is a great idea.
Side ceiling around the proscenium.
What's the budget? We need Madison Square Garden.
Dude, I don't think it's as expensive as it used to be, and it doesn't have to be like, particularly the side walls, the dot pitch resolution doesn't have to be literal. All this, so you can have a lower, a more, let's say, impressionistic type of quality. And then in certain areas where you want to do live camera and see faces, like maybe on the sides of the proscenium, you could have a higher density dot pitch, kind of idea. And then, of course, on stage itself, if you bring in a screen and side screens, then the entire environment can become immersive. But since the content is malleable, you could just make it look like 1926, and you go, oh, it's just a regular theater. And then, boom, switch, and you're in the Sinai Desert or the pyramids of Giza or wherever you want to be.
You should talk to, I believe it's Texas A&M. They are bringing online a digital program. I think they'll be up in 3 years, but they're building a volume over in Fort Worth. But it seems to me if you guys really want to go in a direction like that, the other part of that would be the curriculum that's being offered at this Arts Magnet School.
Absolutely.
And then finding someone you can partner with who can help provide that curriculum, either through internships or through classroom work. But I think I would go to the people who are actually doing it and see where they're thinking we're going to be in 3 to 5 to 10 years.
You're right, Steve. I think it does grow from the curriculum and who can teach it and how is that going to be, because is this, let's ask a more broad question. Is the sphere, the idea of the sphere and malleable surfaces, not just the future, it's the present, right? Is there more of that, right? Is that where we're heading?
I don't think it's going to get any less.
Yeah, I
think
agree.
that's now going to be the baseline, to tell you
Correct.
the truth. Well, it's funny. I just wanted to add one more thing to this because we were talking about the curriculum. And I think too many consultants come into these spaces, whether you're doing high school, college, or whatever, and they say, well, it would be great to do state of the art. Well, it's not just the material. You got to find a curriculum with teachers who know what the hell they're doing.
That's right.
Who are up to date on that. So that's another financial commitment.
Right. Well, in this particular case that I'm describing, the decision has been made by the school district. It is a magnet school for the performing arts.
Stan, I think you ought to recommend doing everything we talked about, because I think that is really what is state of the art now. That's state of the art.
They're not going out to build flats. That world is sort of...
Nobody builds flats anymore.
Right. You are listening to Light Talk with the original Lumen Brothers. And Light Talk is sponsored this week by
The 21st Century Schizoid Lighting Company. What do you do when you have to be in two places at the same time? Imagine this scenario. You buy 2 expensive tickets to see the B-52s in Las Vegas, and you post it on Facebook, only to find out that soon after posting it, one of the comments is from one of your directors who says, "Sounds great. Too bad we're both in Tech Week." Oops. Guess you need a new calendar app. So what can you do about this? You can't have your director just replace you. What if they end up liking the new designer better? Or even worse, you can't have your partner replace you at the concert. What if they like the new guy better? What you need is a way to design the show while watching the B-52s with your partner, all while leaving the impression that you are giving them your full and undivided attention. How can you pull this off? Well, the 21st Century Schizoid Lighting Company has the answer, and that is their new double-booked, double-vision, undetectable bi-location device. How does it work? Using the magic of our patented undetectable double-vision glasses, you can see and design the lighting that is occurring in any theater around the world, all while watching the B-52s in Vegas. How can you possibly do this during a loud concert? Simple. With our new AI-powered language generator, there is no need to speak, because all your lighting commands are signaled through tactile stimulation. That's right. You communicate by moving, touching, or scratching different parts of your body. To pan a fixture, just turn your head left or right. To tilt, just lift your head up or down. To sharpen and soften a beam, gently stroke your beard to the left or to the right. Need to change a color? Piece of cake. Just crack a knuckle. You can even record an autofollow with a quick little scratch to your butt.
Warning, any unexpected partner fondling could result in an unexpected lighting disaster. Not tonight, Toots. Can't we just enjoy the show?
And for only $39.99 extra, you can order our optional trifocal lenses, which allows you to watch 3 events at once. That's right. You can enjoy the B-52s, watch the NBA playoffs, and light the magic flute all at the same time. And unlike the Apple Vision Pro goggles, the double-booked, double-vision, undetectable bi-location device looks like ordinary eyeglasses. No one will be the wiser. So rock out to Rock Lobster and keep both your director and your partner happy with the 21st Century Schizoid Lighting Company's new double-booked, double-vision, undetectable bi-location device. Order yours today.
That's great. You'll need a new brain to be able to process all that once. You'll need to have an NVIDIA chip implanted in your head first.
That's next. You talk about state of the art. That's what you need, Stan. You buy one of these.
So, what is it? What is that Elon Musk company, Neuralink, where he's putting things in
chips in
people's
the brain,
brains?
man. That's what's happening. That's what's happening.
Unbelievable.
Has he found a second person yet?
I don't know.
Besides
Yeah,
himself?
he was looking for someone who was willing to do it. That was last week. That was the news. He was looking for
I missed that
implant
one.
number 2.
Oh, my
And
God.
now, back to Lights On.
Well, the sound of those iguanas, monkeys, and ducks having a rollicking time dismantling Stan's new Tesla means that once again it's time for Let's Talk About. And today's Let's Talk About is all about safety first, and safety is our business, damn it.
Safety first. Hey, you know what? This morning, David, for the first time, I went to the Tesla and I had a very important meeting to get to, and I got a blank screen. No start. Touch the brake. Nothing. Nada. Dead as a doornail. Dead as a doorknob. Wasn't going anywhere. 2 tons of nothing.
But you didn't call me, Stan. I could have told you how to solve that.
I did know how to solve it. You push the 2 thumb wheels
Right,
and
and
you
hold the
reboot
brake
the computer.
and
So
then
your
reboots.
car is like a computer. Remember we used we used to have jokes that imagine when Microsoft would break all the times that imagine if Microsoft built cars. You know, you'd have to
there it is.
You'd have to reboot them, and now we have it.
Let me give you a little bit of bad news. Just wait till it happens while you're traveling 70 miles an hour on the interstate.
Get out.
Yes, but it's designed that the steering and the acceleration and the brakes still work, but your screens will go totally black. So you have to, no reason to panic. It's happened to me once in 5 years. So all you need to do is
I bought this car because you love yours.
I forgot to tell you about this one little quirk. Okay, Stan, I'm sorry. I do love my car, but it's only happened once in 5 years.
Okay.
So. But the good news is that it still runs.
No, I think I know what did it. I tried to send where I was going, which you can do, by the way, from your phone to the car. And it's worked really brilliantly. If you open your map on your iPhone and want to go here, you push up and send it to the Tesla and it puts it on the map.
Pretty cool.
I did that this morning. I got in thinking it's great. I'm going downtown for this meeting. And blank screens.
So speaking of blank screens and safety,
yes.
Safety first.
Safety first. Yeah. So, okay, I'll pose one question. Catwalks or automated rigging? Which is safer?
Automated rigging. Catwalks are dangerous and stupid. And usually designed poorly. And I always used to hit my head on the damn
So why
things.
do people keep building them?
I don't know. That's a good question.
I mean, now that the hoists are, the cost is about equal, the safety is greater, and I don't understand why somebody would want to do that. But some consultants, I have a suspicion why that gets done. Now, some people, let's hear the arguments pro and con. I've heard, well, what if I got to get to the light? Okay, well,
you can't
focus a traditional. Well, you can't really focus a traditional light.
No. It's you have to have all moving lights. Absolutely.
Right. And you have to have that special box, by the way, that goes on the pipe that prevents it from swaying when they're swinging. Did you know there's a thing that counters that?
Yeah.
Right.
Steve, do you have a reason why you would want a catwalk?
Well, I hadn't thought much about it. I think the first problem is that, as you point out, incredible cost. When you start thinking about everything has to be a moving light, I mean, you're totally committed to it.
Yeah, that's true. But you just don't need as many lights.
Well, sometimes your screens go black and you're sitting in the garage and nothing works. So it wouldn't be a bad idea to have something that wasn't reliant upon the latest technology.
I think that Steve is really like giving us the nudge. You guys bought Teslas. This is what you get.
What idiot buys a car that shuts itself off at 70 miles an hour going down the road?
It does. It's unbelievable. I mean, and I didn't know about it. It took me by surprise.
You had to pay a premium price to put your life at risk. I mean,
absolutely. We're stupid. What can I say?
David lives dangerously.
I live vicariously.
Lives on the edge.
Elon Musk. What I want to know is if he's looking for a second person to put a chip in their brain and the other chip is in Elon's brain, I don't think I'd want to be connected to Elon's brain in any way. Because that guy is crazy. I'm sorry.
I don't know. He sent my NVIDIA stock up by a couple hundred today.
Well, the stock is going crazy.
Of course. He's also using it in his latest thing. He's like, I'm going to buy everything I can get my hands on. So that was good. That was a good thing. He was a good Elon today.
It's scary.
I think this question about automation versus a catwalk, it gets down to how do you manage the budget? And are you spending the money in the best way for the client? Or are you doing something that is just something that gives you the fizz because you did it? I think it always comes down to responsibility between the architect and the end user. The
three of us have been teaching for a long time, right? Decades, the three of us. Probably 100 years amongst the three of us. I'm not exaggerating. How many injuries have you seen happen because students hit their head on a catwalk or they tripped over something at a catwalk or they had to bend over? I know just myself going up into the catwalk a lot of times. A lot of people get injured. They hit their head on that damn air conditioning duct that's a little bit too low, or there's a structural element that you have to duck under all the time. And of course, the first time you take them up into the catwalk, you got to say, okay, watch out for this, watch out for that. You could put some padding on it, but it still hits you in the head. I mean, I just think just for safety reasons alone, people need to go to automated lights and have a couple spares up there so that if something breaks during a show, you just swap over to that light, I just think that it's just for safety reasons. Get rid of those catwalks. Plus, it'll look a lot better, don't you think?
Yeah, I agree. And I'll add to Steve's point about the budget. We've done several studies ourselves internally about cost per linear foot catwalk versus hoist versus the height of the building, which goes down, and the safety and insurance. And it's really a wash financially.
So if that's the case and you want to be state of the art and you want to be safe, why not?
You don't have to really access the light that often. And when you do, you just push a button. And setting people up to focus in the air with gloves and a wrench or whatever versus focusing it from the console, it's sort of like, it's just even from an educational perspective, accessing the light through a computer is more future thinking than accessing the light from walking up in the air on a catwalk where you can be hurt or fall or trip, and use a wrench. It's just sort of like, which are we going to have more of moving forward? And I would say more we're going to be doing it from the ground.
Or drop something on someone.
People do it with the table saw. Now they have table saws, that if it touches skin, it stops and saves people from losing a finger. Now, if we're willing to do that, take that same philosophy and apply it, to rigging, and that kind of thing. We just don't see the logic or the argument in not doing it when the cost is essentially equal, right? And it just makes sense to us. And when we kind of bring that idea forward, particularly with schools, we see the heads nod. Who wants the liability of having to send young people up onto these high spaces where they can get hurt? It's just, now, true, you have to have the hoist inspected. You have to find a way to get there and look at them and maintenance them. Absolutely. And maybe not as much with a counterweight system, but a counterweight system, is more prone to human error than the hoist is. The hoist has slackline detectors. You hit something, it might do a little bit of damage, but then it's going to stop, right? And when you talk about black tracks, you can just, they're just, it's just a safer way of doing the same job.
Right. In my career as a professional lighting designer, I've not seen, but I have been in theaters where 2 people were killed by falling counterweights.
It's just a really dangerous operation.
It's a really dangerous thing, man.
If you're a welder on an oil rig in the Gulf, okay, that comes with the job. That's a danger.
But if you're a student,
that's dangerous work. But in the schools and theaters, we don't have to have that. Any other safety-related subjects, guys? How about pyro?
Pyro?
We never talk about pyro on this show.
That's because no one uses it.
Yeah, no one uses it. We do it with video now. By the way, before we move on to our last question, I now figured out what happened to your Tesla, Stan.
Oh.
Those damn monkeys, iguanas, and ducks were fooling around with it in your damn garage. And they're the ones who caused it.
I need to keep Sentry mode on and keep the doors locked.
yeah, keep Sentry mode on.
I think it's because the monkeys have an opposable thumb. I don't think we should drag the ducks and the iguanas into this. I think they're noble.
You're right.
Creatures.
The monkeys, damn monkeys.
Yeah, it was the monkeys.
All right, Steve has our last question.
All right, Carol in Iowa asks, how often do you meet with the director? We get this question a lot. Succinctly put, I'm opening a show in October. So right now, it's end of May. I started the 1st of May meeting with the director bi-weekly. So May through July, I will meet bi-weekly with the director. August through September, I will meet weekly with the director. So I think that's bare minimum right there. You should be in contact with them quite a bit. We're in pre-production right now, so I don't think we have to meet every week. I think bi-weekly works, but as we get close to that October opening, certainly by August, it's a weekly meeting. And we just set aside an hour so that we're touching base. It's not a production meeting. It's not it's an ideas meeting. It is a script meeting. It is a discussion about what we're trying to do with the show meeting. What about you, David? You're tackling new opera. What kind of meetings do you have with the director?
It depends on who's picking up the tab. If they're paying for dinner and drinks, as many as possible. No, as often as possible, really. I meet a lot more often with directors, and even if it's just a phone call, even if you're not in town, now with Zoom, it's so easy. So when I work with Paul or Ken, I'm just thinking about the last show I did with Ken. We probably met 20 times during the production process on Zoom. first we just talk about the show, obviously, and then second you start breaking ideas down, and then you break down the script, and then you talk through the whole design process. In that case, I was designing projections, lighting, and the set, so it took there was a lot more to talk about. But even if I was just doing lighting, there's a meeting that I have with any of the directors I work with, where we actually walk through the lighting cues. We talk about the real important cues in the acts. I'm not talking about focus cues or things like that. I'm talking about major atmosphere changes, major dramatic moments, things like that. And we actually pinpoint them when they happen in the script or in the score. And we actually talk about timing too. I mean, so this should be a slower cue, maybe like a 20 count, or maybe this is a bump, or maybe this is like a series of 3 cues happening. The directors I work with, they're as good of lighting designers as I am. So they know light really well. And I always take it as a compliment when I always compliment them and they say, well, you taught me about light. So they just working together, they've taught me about directing, I teach them about light. That's the beauty of theater.
No. Also, what you're really talking about is just getting down to the dirt of the stuff. You're talking about how to stage that show and how a scene needs to be staged, how light's going to impact that scene, whether it's a silhouette or it's side light or it's just a monster amount of front light coming in. It's all white, it's blue, whatever. The director has that very clearly in their mind in the rehearsal process.
I would just say more broadly, as often as you can, unless you feel like you're overdoing it. I think I think that getting with them, having coffee with the director, doing all that, it's about trust building. And once you get that trust going on and you know where you're going together, it's sort of, say you're going to do something, you do it. They believe in you, vice versa. They'll give you more latitude to bring your own creativity. But how often? I wouldn't want to go more than a week throughout a process that I wouldn't be talking or touching base with the director. A week would be the maximum.
Yeah, because, ideas change. And especially if you're the lighting designer or just doing lighting, there may have been discussions that were happening between the director and the set designer privately that you probably need to be caught up on.
Caught up, right. You could sort of feel it intuitively. Like I could sense that some things are evolving and I need to just check in to see, because they might not kind of, in the passion of the collaboration, might not, oh, you know what? David needs to know about that. And they might not think about it. So you always be proactive. It's one of the 7 habits of highly effective people. Yeah. Hey, you check in and go, hey, and anything I need to know about, what's going on? What's new? That's just sort of the normal collaborative creative process. And
absolutely.
Yeah, it happens in architecture. It's the same way. If I'm on if I haven't talked to, okay, one project right now, we're waiting on bids, right? And it's been a while. So I kind of will reach out to the architects. They haven't heard from me in a while. Bids coming in. What's going on? You just do that. It's just part of being a professional. You keep that relationship strong.
And unfortunately, I think lighting designers are kind of conditioned to be like the person on the bottom of the totem pole.
Stepchildren, yes. The redheaded stepchild.
We are the ugly stepchildren of the design team. Not anymore, but there was a time, actually, early in our careers,
was a time,
I'm sure, where it's like, oh, really? Wouldn't it have been nice to tell us? And you find out, like a dress rehearsal, like that the dress has been changed from lime green to burgundy. It's like, whoa. When did that happen?
We moved the set 3 feet upstage. I know you just focused, but you can handle that, right? Yeah.
Right. Or the last line plot that was sent to you, even though you sent out a line plot with the light plot, was like, 2 weeks before you did the light plot. And then all of a sudden they changed it. And you've got 2 borders like bracketing.
Or the positive spin would be, well, you lighting people are such wizards. You'll be able to adapt to it without a front. Right. That's like how
crazy.
You're being used. Back to that conversation.
Yeah, going back a week, how to be used. We got to talk more about that because that's actually a really good subject.
I actually brought that to a horrible end a couple weeks ago. This very show I'm working on, the set designer went, oh yeah, and the lighting designer will transform the space. I think if we keep everything kind of a dull gray, that gives them all kinds of opportunities to make it gold or red or blue. And I went, whoa.
Oh, yeah. I'm doing you a favor.
Yeah, you're a wizard. You can do that, right?
There you go. Yeah, Steve, he can do it. No problems.
It's like, yeah.
All right, guys, good show. Really enjoyed today. Well, the rocking sounds of the B-52s. Oops. Oh, no, I mean the Luminoids. Tell us that once again you've spent another morning listening to Light Talk. You can hear our show on just about every podcast site out there. Check out our website at lighttalk.org and be sure to follow us on Facebook and subscribe to our podcast. That way you will not miss a second of Light Talk insanity.
No guarantee is offered regarding the accuracy of any statements or opinions made on this podcast. However,
If you were mean enough to litigate us, the Snoot Group with the legal team of Sparks, Burnout, and Chase will defend us until all those retirement funds are depleted.
Light Talk is written and produced by the Lumen Brothers, coming to you from Gainesville, Long Beach, and the Lone Star State.
And be sure to join us next week when we talk about more lighting shenanigans. And we have a guest next week. Then that guest will serve you more of our casserole of nonsense, damn it.
Just remember that we are Light Talk, and we are broadcasting that questionable Lumen knowledge and a little bit of humor sprinkled in all around the world.
So we'll see you all next Saturday morning. Bye-bye from Light Talk.
Woohoo!
Lumen